We're live on a Tuesday night for Triple T number 90, number 90. 90 of these on September 19th, 2023. My name is TJ Zel. I call myself a professional problem solver with the following constant disclaimer: no, I don't know everything. But I do have this unique way of asking questions and helping people help themselves find solutions to the challenges that life likes to throw our way. I also, while we're at it, we are live on YouTube. Hi, Mom. And if you know all the YouTube stuff, please follow it. Click the like, click the subscribe, click the ring the bell, leave comments, and then leave some more comments, and then comment on your comments. While we're at it, have some fun. I do have a website, thetswb.com. That's right, thetallskinnywhiteboy.com. And I offer a free 30-minute consultation. That is your chance to spend 30 minutes with me talking about anything you would like. If you have some challenges, I help people with depression, anxiety, PTSD, phobias. I work with professional athletes for performance enhancement. I provide corporate coaching. And that's about this much that I do. Those that know me well know that is the truth. So can't lie because Mama's on the call. Can't be lying when my mom is listening. So, also, for those of you on the call, make sure that you have your questions and topics ready for the second hour. And for those of you watching out in YouTube land or watching the recording, come on and join us live on Zoom. I promise you don't even have to know how to spell NLP. We are not that intimidating, but we do need your questions, and especially those that are not in the industry, because sometimes we forget about the basics. And it's always good to go back to the basics and be reminded where we came from. There. 2 minutes of all the intros done. On to the way I like to start these nights. Anybody got anything they would like to share? Ahas, epiphanies, cool stuff that has happened in the last 7 days since the last time we got together?
Oh, I had epiphanies. I can save them. I told Elijah that I had to tell him about them too. I will save them for the second hour.
Well, there you have it. The cliffhanger introduction. I've got great stuff. Hang around and I'll share it with you later. Anybody else got anything? You? Well, then I guess we will dive right into this week's topics that popped up. Past lives as cars, labeling ourselves, and the famous question, who manifested who? So let's dive right in. Past lives as cars. This one came to me while working with one of my clients, and it came out of the theory of being grateful for things that happened to you in the past, who you were in the past. A lot of people have, we have this ability to get down on ourselves. Oh, if I'd have just known, I can't believe I did that. Oh, and it causes all of this less than positive chatter, monkey brain going on about the things we coulda, shoulda, woulda done, didn't, da-da-da-da-da. And then, of course, we get all these rehearsal scenes going in our head about all the things you wish you would have said, could have said. definitely would have said, oh, if they, oh, I'd have just, and then, and you're rehearsing all these lines for a role that you're never going to play again, hopefully. Now, sometimes it can help while you're, rehearsing to get better at practicing the replies, the responses. But at some point, you have to stop, step back, and go, what are the chances that that scenario is going to pop up again? So that when the time comes, these lines that I've rehearsed 700 times with this idiot that I'm probably never going to see again, nor would I probably recognize them if I did see them again. I don't even know their name. And yet they're taking up space. How does this connect with the theme of cars? Well, we have to understand that we did the best we could at the time with the tools, the knowledge, and the energy we had available to us. It's kind of like if our entire life were summed up into driving from coast to coast. You pick whatever direction you want. You just got to get, let's say we're going to drive from New York to San Diego. And you look at a part of your life where you had some tough goes, a couple of tough years. And you can choose to get down on yourself like, that frickin' old car that, failed me, and the stuff I went through, and blue tires, da. And we forget about the fact that it still got us across Oklahoma. We're here. We made it. We survived. That vehicle, that situation, that arena in our life still got us through. And we still got to see some scenery, meet some people. And we can regret the vehicle, or we can be glad for the amount of miles that it put on while it could. It's not like we're going to drive back there with our current car and go, yeah, if I just swapped the motor, I could have got a few more miles. No, leave it back there. Take the recordings of what you experienced, what you saw, what you made it through, what you survived. Drove that thing right through a tornado. Yeah, you did. And you're still here to talk about it, to tell about it. It hauled my ex, Luther. But you were still safe enough to make it here. And hopefully you upgraded along the way, learned some things, learned how to tune up some things, have a little better thought process, a little better GPS setting. And I think that's part of the problem, as we go along, hopefully we got better at upgrading our equipment. And hopefully along the way, one of them would be our GPS. Where do you want to go? What do you want to be? Who do you want to be in 5 years, 5 months, 5 weeks? I had the opportunity to meet a gentleman this weekend. Sold a piece of machinery that I had, and being the shy introvert that I am, we talked for about 2 hours, and I had the chance to get to know him well enough and talk him through a couple of things, like he still, in his words, was addicted to cigarettes. And hopefully, if I did things right, by the time he left, he should be about done with cigarettes by the end of this week. He also had a heart attack and was informed in the most amazing way. He was called by one of the physician's assistants asking him if he had enough test strips. He said, "For what?" "Well, for your glucose meter." "Why would I have a glucose meter?" "Well, you're diabetic." "Since when?" "Well, since your blood test." "Yeah." Said he fired that doctor. Not over the phone. Drove there and asked to see him right away and said, "When are you not paid enough to be the person, the doctor, who informs your patient that they now have diabetes? You don't have somebody call and inform them by asking if they have enough test strips." And he also informed me about people just have a way of opening up to me. Found out about lots of stuff, and he's been through some stuff, but I also used the analogy that we're just talking about now. I said, yeah, kind of like this old truck that you're driving. May not be the prettiest, may have some issues, but it still got you here safely. What kind of upgrades do you plan on? You told me how you're planning on upgrading this truck. What are you doing to upgrade you? He admitted that he's been drinking Coca-Cola and Pepsi and Dr. Pepper and all this stuff, and he recently figured out that they're not the healthiest drink on the planet. And so we did a little reframing, and I told him the flavor and thickness of the drink is part of the habit. But as you cut that out, I promise you, it won't take long before trying to drink one of those will almost gag you because it's too syrupy, too thick, too sweet. And so again, wouldn't that be a nice upgrade? Instead of having to run your vehicle on that fuel that deteriorates it, working on better alternatives. Any inputs, ahas, comments on this so far?
So when I had started to hear this, especially when it came to a car and not liking what the car was going through at what point, one point. And especially because we got into the conversation last week about parts and about even if something happened, to accept that part and to find a way to love it. And that was always something that was very hard for me when it came to anything that was related in the physical abuse or sexual abuse arena, because I could not find a way to understand it and accept it. And when you had said about the car, that it was strong enough to get you through that, that really helped reframe things.
Awesome. Thank
Thank
you
you
for
for
sharing that. And anybody else before we switch gears per se? All right, then we'll move on to labeling ourselves. And this one came as a download today while I was on Instagram, and a friend of mine had posted a video of them doing an entire painting, nice big blank canvas, and they were painting it and talking through it. And they said, and I'm not a painter. And I'm going, while you're painting. And I'm not a videographer. While I'm watching this video of you doing what you aren't. And there were so many limiting things that were said during the video that I had to reach out to him and, and kind of tongue in cheek, I said, well, I'm glad you cleared up all the things that would have confused us watching. Like, I'm not a painter, even though you managed to paint something right before us that was amazing. And you're not a videographer, but it was intriguing all the way to the end. So when would now be a good time to change your labels? And it got me thinking, how many times, especially in our industry, I meet people all the time that have an amazing way of telling you what they're not, even when they're doing what they are apparently are not. And that also includes self-talk. And they will label themselves in a way where I'm like, are you sure? Sure what? About what you just said about yourself. And oftentimes it has become such a habit, they don't even realize they've said it, which to me, I think, is the most dangerous form of labeling. When it has become so comfortable, so common, that these labels, the self-talk, all of these things that build our values and criteria, build our identity, are constantly being reinforced through unconscious habit. Please.
It's completely unconscious, especially when you grow up in an environment in it and then the culture reinforces it. I had I knew I wasn't very clean with my self-talk, but I had no idea until people would start pointing it out and going, did you just say that? Yes, like you. Did you just say that? I had no idea, especially when people would offer a compliment, and the one where it says, if somebody gives you a compliment, it's like them giving you a gift and you put it down on the floor in front of you when you don't accept it. I had no idea. And what really got me was when they had, I was listening to a teacher many years ago, and they said, how good are you at receiving? Can you receive a compliment? If you can't receive a compliment, how can you receive money? And that one threw me, that one still gets me.
Very much so. And I've seen a lot of people take a compliment, like you say, toss it on the ground, set it down, or they have to rebound it right away. But they'll also do it with a label. Oh, that's a great painting. Oh, I'm not a painter. I'm just fiddlefutzing. Wow, you fooled me up until the point where you corrected me. I was pretty sure you were a painter. In fact, I would have paid you until you let me know that you were a fake. So, who did the painting? I did. Well, wouldn't that make you a painter? Well, no. And what might happen if you actually stop telling yourself that you weren't? It's one of the cool things about kids before they are told all the things that they can't do. Most of them don't realize they can't. Now, there are the ones that have made it through that process, and they're pretty sure they can. Some are good, and some you're just like, oh, yeah, you probably didn't get the reality check, did you? Yeah. And at times, I'm not sure which one is worse. At least the ones that believe they can do anything go out and try. Now, it's what happens in their mindset when they fail. Do they curl up and go cry in a corner and give up right away, or have they been seasoned enough to where they go, well, that didn't work. Let me try another way. Well, that didn't work. Got a lesson from that. Let me try another way. Well, that didn't work. And as long as they're not doing the exact same thing over and over, expecting a different result, they're typically the ones that are doing awesome things. Yeah, Elijah just put in the chat, I truly believe that many kids can see energy in spirits until grown-ups tell them that they're imagining it, and then they learn to filter it out. Yes.
Did anyone ever see the movie Heart and Soul with Robert Downey Jr., and it came out a very long time ago? But he was somebody who could see, he had imaginary friends, but they were his spirits. People would call them imaginary friends. Fantastic movie. If you're gonna watch it, I strongly suggest a box of tissues. So good.
It came out very long time ago, like
very
in the
long time
1700s, or was it, is this black and white, or?
It depends on what you consider a very long time ago.
That's why I'm asking, just for
that's my label.
For clarification.
I'm pretty sure, I want to say like early 80s.
Oh,
I know.
ancient. Oh my
I
goodness.
know. He was super young in it, and it's song is the famous song in it is "Walk Like a Man" by the Jersey Boys.
Awesome.
And Elijah, did you ever see the picture of it's a drawing of a small child with wings, and there are two adults above the child with a pair of scissors, and they're cutting the wings off the child.
I have not seen that.
Extraordinarily heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And I agree with you.
And those that have had the wings clipped, Weird Science. Yes, while we're calling out Robert Downey Jr., shout out to Weird Science. I wonder if that could be considered manifestation. Just a thought. That brings us almost to the bottom of the hour, and holy bananas, Batman. We've already made it through 2 topics. A little bit more on the labeling ourselves. I just thought of the other day, my wife and I yesterday, we were at the bank getting some baking stuff done, and the one banker there hasn't met me yet. And there's always that fun little awkward moment where they're trying to get some information and they look at me and they go, "And so what do you do?" And the funny thing is, one of his coworkers was there and we'd already gone through it with them. And I kind of giggled and I said, "Well, how would you sum it up after our last talk?" And the guy looks at them like with this confused look like, "Well, it's simple. What do you do?" I'm like, "Not that simple. You know what? Let's keep it easy. Let's just say teacher." And so the self-labeling sometimes is not quite as simple as others because they won't accept just straightforward entrepreneur. They want something more. They want to pigeonhole you into something that they can identify. So, if you got 28 openings, I can give you some more options.
It's so hard to fit in their box that they want to put you in, and you want to try and be quick and catchy and memorable and also explain what you do. Very hard.
Yeah, they don't have professional problem solver anywhere on the list. And so it kind of cracked me up about, I get asked that a lot. And the look on people's faces when I'm like, "Well, can I just tell you what I don't do?" People showed it.
What don't you do?
Make babies.
How don't you do that when you don't?
Because with all the times that I've tried, I've been unsuccessful. And as far as I know, knock on wood, I don't have any. The women always know, the guys always wonder. But I haven't changed my phone number. My Facebook profile is on my same name. So if there's one out there, I'm pretty sure they would have been able to track me down by now. But other than that,
That's one of Elijah's favorite questions. I'm convinced.
yes. How do you not do that when you're not doing it?
But do you even know how much more you could do when you don't stop yourself from preventing the growth you can occur? pay attention to that.
Absolutely. Especially in the reverse order.
Now, I might be a little bit tipsy tonight, so just be aware that I might say some random things.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever known you to be tipsy.
Well, the interesting,
Lovely screwdriver here.
there's some interesting energy on the planet. I got 3 texts of people that won't be able to make it tonight. So, yep, stuff going on out in the ethereal universe. And we're still here, making it happen. And that brings us to the bottom of the hour, which means we have the option of, stretching manifestation for 30 minutes. And this one, who manifested who, came from a client who is in the wait to date protocol. Obviously, I haven't renamed it yet. And still having massive download after download after download, and growth after growth. And whomever was more aware, yes. And the cool part is their wait to date, if you would call it, is December 6th. And so they're getting close to their year. Massive year of growth. And they met somebody who checks off over 95% of the boxes in their journal of who their person is, including stuff like they went to a bar to dance and both admitted neither one of them wanted to go out that night. My client, it was the second time they'd been to this place. The other person, it was their first time. They weren't invited by anybody, didn't even want to go out that night, and then just decided last minute, I'll show up. And both noticed each other when my client walked through the door. Both admitted in their minds, saw each other immediately, and was like, whoo, wow. And because my client is in the wait to date portion yet and has grown so much, decided, you know what, I want to dance. Walked up to the person and said, if you're not married, I'm going to dance with you. And then turned and walked away. And a little bit later, the person walked up and said, well, I'm not married, but I'm probably too old for you. Turns out they're the same age. And they've been spending a good amount of time together lately. And because my client is in this portion of the wait to date, the conversations have been very open, very raw, not chasing. And one of the interesting things that came up with was, well, my client said, one of these days, I'll show you my list so you can see how many things are on there. And the other person said the same thing. I've been writing down different things I want. And I said, wow, who manifested who? And one of Elisha, I don't have a girlfriend, but I do know a woman who wouldn't like it if she heard me say that. Yeah, there's that part as well. But it's interesting listening to how much my client has changed in 9 months, a little bit more. And the attitude and the ability, and they're like, I don't know if this is my person yet. I said, good. Because when you look back at the progression of who you've dated, you don't know if this is the final step up. And going back to cars, that man happened to pop up as well. So you're like, you know what? I realized I'm a Ferrari, and not everybody can afford a Ferrari, and not everybody even knows how to drive a Ferrari, and some people are intimidated to approach a Ferrari. And they thought the other person was a player because they were too good looking, too suave, a little too good at everything, and said, wait a minute. That's all in my list. I want the person that knows how to talk to me. I want the person that knows how to make me feel the way they make me feel. I want the person that knows how to dance with me as though we've always danced together. And they also realized there are a few things that they have to add to their list. And I said, that's why your journal is a constantly living, growing list. You constantly go over it because you're not the same person today as you were yesterday. My client is definitely not the same person they were last December. And so that's part of why they're still unsure. They're still not positive that this is their person, because they still have until December 6th to change and grow even more. Yes, Elijah, all you are is changing. Exactly. And that goes right back to my analogy with the cars. You can't look at who you were 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. That's like being frustrated that the very first car that you drove 30 years ago didn't have a backup camera. Like, whoa, what the heck? It didn't even have GPS, didn't have analog brakes. Yeah, you're right, it didn't. And yet it was able to take you where you needed to go safely. And so back to who manifested who, when I tell my clients, don't freak out if you haven't met your person yet, they're still working on themselves. If they're the person that you describe in your journal, then your journal should say that they are also a work in progress and becoming the person that will accept the person I'm becoming. Because you are changing as well. And wouldn't it be cool if both of you could be manifesting the new and improved, better, constantly improving person? Any input, ahas, epiphanies on? Yes, Fran.
And how much do you think that has to do with pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and getting out of your regular environment?
A lot. That's what this is all about. That's why, my clients don't come with me because they have too many optimum partners and an amazing track record of being married to the same amazing, awesome person who kept growing with them. Most of my clients come to me because they are sick and tired of dating the same person in a different meat suit. And when I point out to them that, how much have you changed? How much have you worked on yourself? What have you done to attract different, better people? That's when they realize that they also have to work on themselves. And Elijah posted in here, no matter what you think you are, you're always more than that. No matter what you think you are, you're always more than that. Yes, and that's the part where not only are you more than that, you deserve the absolute best life possible. The absolute best life. I can't tell you what that best life is, because your best life and my best life can be two entirely different things. The best life for a sea crab is definitely not the same as the best life for a bird. And possible is probably beyond what you think. Yes, Elijah, correct. And that's when people are, when I can get my clients to stop hanging on to the things from the past that don't serve them and realize that they can take their identity and mold it and refine it into things beyond what they've even imagined, that's when the magic starts to happen. Your past doesn't define who you can become tomorrow. It just shows a path that got you there. And I think too many people are running on autopilot. Yes, Elijah. Did you know that goldfish grow bigger if it has bigger fish tank? And how big do you need to make your world to grow bigger? Which is why I highly endorse travel. Yes? Oh, okay.
Do you endorse travel? Oh, wait.
Yeah. But no, I highly, highly endorse travel in as many diverse areas as possible. Get around people that are very different from you. Try things that you wouldn't normally try. I ran across the clip again about, and I forgot what the guy called it, where at least every 2 months you go out and do something crazy that you wouldn't normally do. And at least one time a year, you do something that is monumental so that people go, yeah, 2019, that was Tina and I whitewater rafting down the Kern River, shook hands with Jesus twice. Holy cow. Did class 4 rapids. Actually, they were like class 4.8 rapids and made it. We want to do it again? No, that's we checked that one off. And yeah, scientifically proven that you will live longer and be more happy if you do that, because it allows you to expand your experiences, your life, and I think it also allows you to become more empathetic with people because you have a little more understanding of what it's like in different areas. One of the cool things about when I lived in France was I was working on a rather futuristic milk dairy farm, and yet as futuristic as that dairy farm was, the gentleman I was working for was able to take me to another place that was still milking the same way they did in the 3, 4, 500 years ago. Elijah put in, check out the book Counterclockwise by Ellen Langner. In fact, check Ellen Langner's work in general. Okay. And as long as we're on the topic of manifesting, it's interesting how people can make the idea, the concept, the word manifesting so much more difficult than it can be, should be, would be, has to be. Is luck manifesting, or do people call things that get manifested pure luck? Like, you know what? I don't think manifesting really cares what you call it as long as you embrace it. I call my ability to find great parking spots my little parking angel. Blows people away. Oh my gosh, it's so busy. We're never going to find a place to park. We're going to be 10,000 miles away. We're going to have to walk out. We're going to need that. I'm like, just and I'll drive right up to where I want to park. Well, there's never going to be an opening here. Well, yeah, if you believe that, there probably won't be, but my parking angel usually gives me a place just like that opening right there. How did you do that? I don't question it. I don't worry about it. I just knew that I needed a cool parking space and it was waiting for me. Luckily, somebody had parked there long enough so that it wasn't taken by somebody who wasn't ready to leave yet. It wasn't waiting for me all day long. It was just waiting for me when I needed it. Sometimes we get a little too anxious. Where is my manifesting team? I wanted it yesterday.
See, but you see, when you do that, where is my manifesting now? How come it never works? And if you denormalize manifestation in that moment and say, well, look at yourself now and the energy you're outputting right now. What are you manifesting now?
Yeah.
With that attitude that seems to come oh so naturally, right? When you could make something much more, I don't know what the word is, serendipitous or happy or pleasant, be the more natural default feeling. And then
Yes,
manifest.
exactly.
Because you manifest what is in harmony with your dominant vibration. And your dominant vibration is not the one you think it is. It's not the one you're aware of. It's the one that runs on autopilot below the threshold of your awareness constantly 24 hours a day. If that default is a little bit frustrated or a little bit impatient, then that's what you're manifesting.
And I think you could easily parallel that to people who believe they're lucky. They have that energy that's there, and when things show up, they're not like, oh my gosh, I can't, or, well, about time. It just shows up for them. And Fran, you had your hand raised earlier. Do you want to share something?
I'm not sure whether I did have my hand raised earlier, but something that's been kind of bugging me along these question lines, that getting out in my small community and meeting some different people, they always want to put you in a box. And I was really surprised at how much that affected me and made me smaller. And, you know, the questions, who are you? What do you do? What's your marital status? And I'm thinking, I don't want to be defined by those questions. And it made me small. So
Do me a favor.
What's the counter to that?
Be playful with it and understand from their point of view that they don't know any better. They're doing the best they can with the tools, knowledge, and energy they have available to them. Have a little fun with it. I do it all the time. You would think that here in the big Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, it would be a little different. Elijah?
Yeah. Just remember that language is only a tool, and the words only mean what you think they mean. You know, sticks and stones, mate. Remember that, yeah. And that as long as you could answer, I could answer like, you know, I am Elijah and I work in a train station and do hypnosis and I'm single, not married. But as I speak those words, on the inside, I am constantly aware that I'm so much more than that.
Yes.
And that's what you have to keep with you. Just understand that the words you're saying are a tool so that you can explain to the muggles in a way that they understand, right? But that's not who you are. That's just so that they can understand. And
I'd
as long
much
as
rather
that
answer,
feeling,
I'm a lion tamer or I'm mistress of the
Yes.
universe. But
I mean, you can if you want, but you might make them uncomfortable.
I
And as
would.
long as you're okay with that, then there's nothing wrong with making them uncomfortable. You might even force them to grow.
Yes. Another part about that, Fran, is if you use your communication skills to figure out who they are, you can show them one of your personalities to get to build the rapport, which allows you to get closer for them to figure out all the other people that you are.
I was so offended that I didn't want to know who they were.
Yeah, I can get I can understand that, but there are times, like even around here, there are some people that I've talked to that it's just easier for me to say that I'm a fix-it guy. Later on, they figure out, well, what do you fix? I fix cars and houses and people and wait, what? You said you fix people? Yeah, I now that you know me, there's lots of other stuff that I do. But I knew that you showed me that your vision is about this big and about this shallow. So I only showed you that portion of who I am. Because as Elijah pointed out, I'm so much more than that. And you can feel sorry for him as well. Like, wow, the people like, you're not one of them that eats that, goes around a whole buffet and eats off of all the different stations, are you? Oh, so you're one of those cheese sandwich people. Well, I like a good cheese sandwich. Well, good. We thought you was one
probably
of
like a
them
bad
freaks that
cheese
you.
sandwich too.
What's that?
I said they probably like a bad cheese sandwich too.
Yeah, well, but I like. Well, I'm pretty diverse. Sometimes I like a little cheddar, and I've even put on like some of that fancy Gouda at one time. Oh man, I'm feeling pretty proud of myself there. But play the music to the audience, just like when I was DJing. It didn't matter that I had 600 plus CDs. I still had to read the audience and play what would interest them until it was time for them to realize that, yes, I also have Bach all the way up to Five Finger Death Punch and Lefty Frizzell and Hank Williams Sr. and all the above. And my father, rest his soul, liked both kinds of music, country and Western.
It's funny, like it's like what we include within the definition of the label that we use, right? Like for the longest time, I said I'm a hypnotist. Like for a good 4 or 5 years, I said, when someone asked me, who are you, or what do you do, or whatever, I said, I'm a hypnotist. And at the time, hypnotist did not include trader. And so I would not trade because that was something I used to do, and now I'm doing hypnosis, right?
Yeah.
But now it actually includes, when someone asks me, what do you do? Even if I say I'm a trader, or if I say I'm a hypnotist, it actually includes both.
Yep.
And one does not exclude the other. So it's about how much more can you include in the definition of who
Well,
you think you are.
yeah, just
I
like
was
this.
so surprised about how fragile I was in my definition, that I could be rattled so quickly.
Yes. And that's why it's so important to surround yourself also with I'm just going to call it your advanced tribe. It may be fewer in numbers, but higher quality. It's still good to learn how to, and I'm probably going to offend somebody, but be able to hang out with the commoners. Don't forget how to talk to the commoners, because they need to know that the advanced people can talk with them as well.
Can I share something with you, Fran?
Yes, please, Elijah.
Sorry to interrupt, TJ.
Okay, go.
I'm going to share something with Fran. If the rest of you want to listen, that's fine. I don't mind, right? But do you know who Darwin is? Charles Darwin, right? He came up with the theory of evolution, right? And he said, it's not the strongest that survives, nor is it the smartest. It's the one who is most adaptable to change, right? I'm going to say that again. It's not the strongest that survives, nor is it the smartest. It's the one who is most adaptable to change. And I believe this is something that no one taught me. This is something I came up with on my own, right? I believe that this same statement applies to social situations. When you are in a group, in a social situation, if you are the one who is adaptable to changing yourself, you will end up controlling the group. Facts. I have done it many times. Many times, right? That I remain adaptable. Oh, okay. I need to be subordinate to this person for now until I gain their trust.
Yep.
And then I'll be feeding advice to the group leader, and the group leader will be following my advice, and the group will be following the group leader's advice. Ergo, everyone is following my advice.
Yes.
And they don't know it,
Yep.
but I'm in control. Right? So within a group, within a situation, whether it's, a meeting with your peers or your professionals or the people you want to impress, whatever, just remain fluid within yourself and remember what you've been taught, right? And you will end up controlling the group. Guaranteed.
Yep.
Right? Be adaptable to change. Circumstances. On the fly.
I would like some witty responses to the questions that I don't want to reply to, like,
First, number one witty response you can give to any answer, to any question when you don't know what to say is, it will make everybody laugh and chuckle. Because everybody went when they were kids.
Yep.
And one of them that I usually say is there's a 2-drink minimum required for that kind of information. And I don't drink.
Another one that you can use, especially if they ask what you do. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. So we'll just go with, And I've used that one many times. And I try to match something that is close to their profession, which helps with the rapport, but still leaves that intrigue. And I'm lucky. I've done so many different things in my life that it's easy for me to have something close enough to what they're doing to have a rapport in step. But another, as long as we're doing some of these replies,
As
I know
always, the answer is it
we're
depends.
getting into your guys' time, but
That is
another
a
one
very
is,
good start.
huh? I think your video froze, Elijah. But another one is, I don't know. All I know is, and then tell a story. I don't know. All I know is, and I've used that many times, especially with um, being challenged on different things, especially answers or questions, deep questions. But I don't know. All I know is, and go into a story. And that, I will say, is the official close of the first hour, which means those of you that know Triple T, our format, second hour we open up and it's open mic, open platform for any questions, topics that those of you on the call may have. So I know a few people have some questions and topics, so we're not going to play the kind squirrel here. Just go and let's get right into it. What do you got?
Okay, so I had a download over the weekend about the third dimension, the fourth dimension, and the fifth dimension. And there was a reel that came up that had triggered this. So this kind of came in early in the very wee hours of the morning. And for me, I feel like I'm wonderfully pulled between the third, the fourth, and the fifth, depending on where I am. And also I have parts that are hanging out in the third dimension, and then I have a higher self, and then a more even wiser self, and they're all trying to have a conversation here. What I found out was I can have a part, and I love the analogy that TJ says, when your actresses are on stage and who's fighting for the spotlight. When I have a part that does feel really limited, or a limiting thought, as in, why do they have more than I do? And why don't I have this? And we said a statement earlier, and I forget what it is. More like an egoic thing, but anyway, it's a limiting thought. I found that when I called that thought out and I looked at it, and then I asked them to come up to the fourth dimension, when I asked them to quite literally take the elevator or come up the escalator and have a different perspective, that thought was then able to navigate without being told by an external representative or an external thought. And I thought it was really helpful for me to quite literally, if it was a younger self, and it came through when I was talking about money. So this thought was about money. And when I asked it, that exact younger self, to come up and have a different thought, it was able to have a different thought. And then it was able to have a completely different conversation. Because there are times where we're having a conversation with a limiting thought or a limiting belief or a limiting part, whatever label you want to give it, and it's not quite making that connection. But once they came up, they were able to have a much more clear connection. And oh my gosh, guys, there were so many things that came over. Another one last night called the pool of possibilities. So in Brent Baum's work, he will quite literally, when he's walking you through a memory, say, I was getting in trouble. I felt really sad and I felt really ashamed. And he goes, okay, well, call all the younger parts that ever felt sad and ashamed, call them all to your space. How many might there be? 342. Great. Have 342. Read through this color, walk them through the waterfall. How do these parts look now? How do all of these versions of you look? So they obviously, once you do that and you move color through, depending on color, sound, whatever your forte is, they look much better. Then I decided to usher them from that area of water over to the pool of possibilities. What else might they want to know? What other perspective might be helpful in pacing this or in reframing this? And that part is coming up with its own thought and then having another higher perspective come in if needed. And it was just really helpful because it was that part coming up with it on its own without being told. And it just kind of kept blooming and blossoming from that way. And Elijah, super, super helpful about your class the other day when you beautifully broke down, I think it's the Milton model, when you said you want them to associate into it, then you want them to disassociate, then you want to get the resolve, then you want to test it. And as I had thought about this and I was going back through the audio that you had shared, it's like, okay, this is matching the model. So I love that you broke that down. So thank you. There's another one, but I'll wait. I want to go manifesting too. Anybody got questions? Okay. So here's my thought about manifesting. I don't know if any of you, I think you've all heard me talking about the future. And I really didn't like it because I would actually think from this really limiting third level thought of what if it doesn't happen? What if it doesn't work out? What if this happens again? Really, thank you. See, because he knows it's true. This really limiting space. So now, whenever you go to quote unquote manifest, whenever you go to sit down and do your meditation or you want to write or whatever, have all of those parts settled and ask them to please step aside because they're not welcome here. This is not the time for their antics. And I don't know if that's ever happened to anybody else. Like you'll go to sit down and you write about something that you want to happen, but then you have these other things coming up and you're like, what if this doesn't happen? What if it? Blech. Useless. Push it aside. Literally super unhelpful. So when you're going to effectively write down what you would like to create or your ideal person, go from the fourth and the fifth dimension of possibility, of what else, of being at the buffet rather than going, why isn't my plate full yet? Go and look and explore from that dimension, from that higher dimension. And what I really liked about this was I'm really methodical. I need a 1, 2, and a 3-step situation. And I see you, Elijah, I promise. That's why I felt like I needed to, it was really helpful for me to exactly point out what level that I'm on. Go, Elijah. You're on mute.
What would happen if instead of kind of like getting them all in a row and saying, okay, this is not the time for your antics, do not disturb in this moment. What if you said, do what you like. I'm just going to acknowledge what you say, but once I've acknowledged that you've said it, I'm then going to ignore the rest of it and not follow it as a train of thought.
Completely. That was the other one when you said, I don't have to believe every thought I think.
That's right.
This is just an older version. You're just a version that I didn't have as much information as I do now. So you can dial it down completely.
Right. So there is the thing when you're doing meditation of like becoming this kind of overseer or observer that is somewhat detached from yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And what you do, or at least what I do as that observer, is I welcome any thought, but I only acknowledge it once it shows itself, but I don't follow it. I acknowledge it. Yep, I acknowledge that you said you're hungry right now. And now I'm going to ignore it. Oh, I acknowledge that you think it's not possible. Now I'm going to ignore it. I acknowledge that you think that this might be bullshit. Now I'm going to ignore it. I just acknowledge and then ignore. Think about it.
Love
Maybe
that
even
one.
try it.
That's a
Because that
really
way,
good one.
the thing is, when you shut out your parts, they're just going to scream louder.
Yeah, completely.
But if you
Completely, depending on.
welcome and acknowledge
Mhm.
and then ignore, you leave it open for later discussion, just not now. But I do acknowledge that you brought this up.
There was one that I was talking with somebody this weekend, and it was going back to permission and going back and forth that they didn't feel like they had control. And I had shared with them to recognize I'm the authority, I'm in control. I choose to brush my teeth. I'm the authority, I'm in control, I'm brushing my teeth. And recognizing that they're taking that even though, yes, it's a habit, even though, yes, they've been doing it for so many years, that you're the authority, you're the one in control, and it's not all these other things. Just like you said, I see you and I'm going to let you go.
So you see, that's the thing. When we have been doing things habitually over and over, right? Because our brain likes to put stuff on autopilot, once it's learned a certain behavior, it can then do it without thinking, right? Like driving. When you first learn to drive, you have to kind of check the mirror, signal. You know, if you're learning manual, then, you know, you push the clutch, change the gear, then you turn, right? All that stuff, right? But then after you've been driving 15, 20 years, you just kind of one elbow out the window, one on the steering wheel. You can even have a conversation with whoever's in the back and still be completely safe because you're doing it on autopilot, right? And so this is what Joe Dispenza calls the body becoming the mind, where you've done something so many times and you've practiced it so many times and it's on autopilot that the body has become the mind, and it just does that and executes it flawlessly every time. The problem is when you then want to change one of those habits and you start to do something different from what you have been doing, the body, which is now the mind, is going to be like a horse that bucks and kicks and tries to throw you off, right? When you, the rider, is trying to get it to go in a different way than what it's used to going. And you have to be able to settle all of those thoughts, all of those objections, and you have to show a level of patience and openness and no ill will to those parts that have been doing the job so well up until now. Just, you have to wait them out until eventually, just like when you're trying to ride the horse that's trying to buck you and kick you off, you have to wait it out. At some point, it's going to settle down and then you can go the direction you want. And if you do that over and over and over again, in the beginning, it is hard, right? But if you do it over and over again, then the body will learn to do that new behavior on its own, and it will then become the mind in this regard. It's kind of like the analogy of when people first start going to the gym, they hate it. But after a while, if they don't go to the gym, they hate it.
Yep.
Because the body takes over and does it on autopilot. It craves it. It's like, oh, we did that. We like that. We like the endorphins and the energy, and we like sweating out the toxins, and we need that right now. And so when you don't go to the gym, it starts gnawing at you. We didn't go to the gym today. We didn't go to the gym today. We need to go and do a workout. We need to go walk. We need to go run, right? Whatever it is. And so that's the process of retraining yourself in a way. You will find that resistance, but you have to kind of be willing to wait it out without getting upset with yourself.
And this leads absolutely beautifully into what I was going to chip in with, which is retraining and appreciating your unconscious mind, in being kind to it and rewarding it whenever it does something you do want, like training an animal or retraining an animal. Every time it does something that you want, acknowledge and reward. Like training a horse, training a dog, reinforce the behavior you want, including the intuitions and the words you want to come out of your mouth, which is what I was stuck with. That just being kind to your unconscious mind, instead of saying, oh, did it wrong again, and beating up on it. Cut all that out now and start rewarding it when it does what you want and just ignoring when it doesn't.
Yes.
And we'll get very rapid responses very quickly.
Yes, condition with pleasure, not with fear or pain. Condition
Exactly.
with pleasure.
Another
And
thing
your unconscious mind can do it too.
Another thing I wanted to add to that is, I think we'll mostly agree here. The more you work on change, and change becomes the habit, the easier the new changes are to do. Does that make sense?
Yes, adaptability is a skill.
Yes, it is a skill. And one of the things when Fran was talking about reward yourself, that's why I constantly tell people, those that know me, I do victory pose all the time. And I'll do it over some of the simplest stuff, like when I'm doing my vitamins and stuff, when I'm laying them out. If I shake out just the right amount, lay them out, I'm like, yes! Most people are like, ooh, you shook out 7 vitamins. Way to go. I'm like, no, I did 7 right on the dot. Yes! And the more you get into celebrating yourself, the harder it is for people to tear you down, because your identity gets stronger into, no, I am an accomplisher. I am an achiever. Anybody else got anything on that? Crickets. Now the crickets are going, yay, he recognized us. There, absolutely. And you've heard me say it a number of times, and I'll keep saying, that simple act of the victory pose has an effect not only on you, but also anybody that witnesses it. Scientifically proven. Scientifically proven. Yes, Lenora.
I wanted to circle back to something from earlier, especially when it comes to your wait to date protocol. I think, there's something to be said about working on yourself with someone else, or whether it's of coaches you choose along the way, or other people you choose along the way. I love the victory pose, Fran. On the regular. And it's almost like your wait to date protocol makes me think of a year of yes, where, and Fran, when you had mentioned about the people in your small town, I would, I don't even know how long. I would for sure say that I did not know anybody who understood anything about NLP, hypnosis, anything in the realm that we like to talk about before Zoom, before actually being able to. I think it was one of your classes, even as early as Triple T started, getting to know you all and what TJ calls now the advanced tribe, which I love. How would everyone come up with that since earlier? There are not, and it's almost like they're almost acquaintances, and some are friends, but then there's this group, and then there's people that you develop relationships in this group that are even closer to you. So I know TJ talks about like that circle of, you're in the center and where are they at arm's length and stuff. I very much enjoy the fact that I have people in an advanced tribe that are all over the world, that I don't really go out into my neighborhood all that much to say, yeah, let's go for dinner. Never happened, and I've lived here for 13 years. They're just not my people, as in you guys are my people. As in we get along, we have things to talk about, we can progress a conversation. So when it comes to a yes, as in, yes, I want to get to know people, I really go to my body and I think, do I want to get to know this person more? Does this feel what Abraham Hicks would call aligned? Does it really feel like something I want to explore? And I really came to, we can have dinner while on Zoom. That would be so fun, Elijah. That just is something that I had to start learning. And I just learned it by default. It wasn't something that dawned on me. I was just kind of underwhelmed by interactions with other people. And then when I meet you or when I meet Elijah and I'm like, oh, I want to talk to them. I want to have more conversations with them. That's that inclination. That's that feeling that I follow that says, yes, I want more of that. So even in going out and trying different things, yes, I want to try that top on. Yes, I want to wear high heels to the grocery store. And that's just me. I don't know many people at the grocery store, and that works out for me. So I don't really have to worry about it.
And that leads so beautifully, you touched on it, about holding the space for your tribe in change, how powerful that is. Just like a victory pose of approval is so powerful for somebody else as well, that holding the space for one of your tribe in change is incredibly powerful, which is why we are here on this call, because this is holding our space for change. So thank you, TJ, for enabling this. And the more frequently you're within a tribe who's holding your space for change, the more you can change. Yay.
Very much so.
And if you think this is where you want to be, come join us.
Yes, please.
Very much. We're very welcoming.
I also want to let you guys know you do just as much for me.
I know.
That's why we've made it to episode 90. And it still blows my mind. And I had a little epiphany while you guys were talking about. I grew up, like I've said many times, in a little village in Minnesota of 187 people, more cattle than people. And I got so used to knowing everybody around me. I knew all my neighbors. They all knew me. And then when I started traveling, I still longed for that ability to know. And it's interesting, the places that I've lived, where I've met my neighbors that have lived there for 20, 30 years, who don't really know their neighbors on the other side. they grew up, they were so used to, they didn't need to know. Yeah, I know what they look like. I've said hi to them 3 times in the last 30 years. And then I show up and I want to know my neighbors and the neighbors on the other side of them and the other side of them. And even here with 3, I guess you could call it neighbors, one on each side and one across the road, the interaction is probably 95-5. 95% of it is me initiating the outreach, the conversation, and they will reach out when they need something, which I'm okay with, because I don't think they would reach out if I hadn't put the time in first. Most of them wouldn't even know to reach out because they wouldn't have any idea what I'm capable of doing. And so part of that is we all have different levels of our tribe. At least my neighbors now know me well enough to where they know when something doesn't look right on my property. They also know that if something doesn't look right on their property, I'll notice and I will take action. And so that gives us kind of that tribe effect. And then going home, let this part out. People find out that my first name is Todd. When I go to go for a checkup or something, I always write in TJ dash, and then I'll put my name. They're like, do you prefer to be called TJ? I said, well, my name's Todd, but the only people that call me Todd are the ones that show up at reunions, class reunions, family reunions. Because that's who I am now. But when I go home, I have to understand that my tribe back there from my hometown will still prefer to call me Todd.
And how does that affect who you are in that company?
As Elijah pointed out, adaptability. I've learned to adapt back to who they're comfortable with. I always joke that, then, I'm from Minnesota then. So, when I go back home, I got to be able to talk to the boys, and let them know that I didn't get all citified, when I left to the big city and stuff there. But, and I can talk to them like that, and they don't even know that anything has changed, But if I come back and like when I lived in San Diego, then if I went across the street to talk to the neighbor, then, well, that might be a little weird, So that's when I switch back and got to match the Cali talk. Lenora.
A couple months ago, TJ had mentioned about masks and holding up masks, especially when you're around people who know you to wear a very specific mask. And one thing that I think he said was, you have to put it on for a little while, even though it's not your true one. It just makes things a little bit easier. And then when you come home, you can put it back in the closet and be okay with that. And I've learned to do that in certain situations because it helps keep me calmer and because it causes a lot less stress in me, but also in the environment. I'll go, even if I go to certain places to work or if I go to certain places to visit, I'll do what I can to bring this part of me forward. But at the same time, I will filter the things that I say because it's not as disruptive to them. And I don't take their map and break through it with a fork, whatever analogy you'd like to use for that one. I kind of think like a scrambled egg. I don't make their brains into a scrambled egg because I know they have a specific perception of me, and it's easier for me to fill that rather than fight it and fight it and fight it.
Kind of like pick your
It's so
battles
hard.
and how you're going to expend your energy.
Elijah, can I ask you how you deal with these sort of identity shifts in different environments as well? It's so interesting to hear TJ and Lenora share, but how do you deal with it, Elijah?
So hard, dude. You know, I had a friend. It's weird, even just now, I said it in past tense. I had a friend. I knew him since we were like 14, 15. And when we were like 31, 32, he moved to Germany. You know, I think maybe I've seen him 3 or 4 times since then. But it's weird. It's like the last time he came back to London, I didn't even want to go and meet him. You know, and this is someone who was like one of my best friends, you know, but he thinks that I'm the same me that I was when he left. And I can tell you 100% for sure that I have at least died twice and been reborn twice since then. Right. And it would be nice, you know, if we could like catch up and I could explain to him and show the changes. I'm sure, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm sure he's changed as well. You know, he's had 2 kids since then and all that stuff, right? But it was very difficult. I still think he's a very close friend. If he asked me for something, I would still do it. But it's uncomfortable even hanging out with him when he comes to visit London. You know? Yeah, it's weird. I don't think that was your question, though. Your question was something else, friend. Can you say it again?
It was that is absolutely fabulous, but taking it also into your everyday environment now, in your different locations and the different groups that you mix with and meet with, who are you and how do you cope with knowing who the amazing you inside is and interacting with different groups, like at work, at the shops, with family? You know, who are you in those environments? How do you juggle that and still know that you're the master of the universe inside?
Okay, so I know my expertise, right? And I know where I'm weaker, let's say, right? Some things that I know really, really well. And I challenge anybody to come and have a discussion with me on those topics. And I will happily share my views in a very confident way because I feel I've, you know, spent the time and the hours learning that stuff. And that's my expertise, right? There's other things that I don't know so well, and I won't pretend to know them well if I don't know them well. I just know them as well as I know them. But the truth is, in any given moment, I could be anyone. And there's no way of you or anyone else knowing who I'm going to be. There's only few people, and I could probably count them on one hand, right? Maybe 1.5 hands, right? If you branch out slightly, that, you know, I would fall within acceptable pre-established behaviors because these people have known me for 20, 30, years or longer, right? We're talking brothers, sisters, we're talking schools from friends from school and things like that, but they are few and far between. Even here, I don't think you guys really know who I really am, right? You know a fair bit, we've hung out a lot. And so you have a decent understanding because you've seen me lose my shit a few times, right? And hold space for other people losing their shit a few times and things like that. And so you have a fairly decent idea. But I still think I could be pretty much anyone. When I'm at work and there's like strangers coming past, customers, passengers, investors, managers, new colleagues, they have no clue. I can be literally anyone. And I can change who I am the next time. And they might think I'm a complete and total psycho. And frankly, I couldn't care. Because they are, unless I decide that, oh, I like this person is important to me, they won't get to see the real me of who I am. I remain a shapeshifter, right? Chameleon, one who protects from the shadow. You don't really know what I'm capable of, So, yeah, ninja. That's right. Lenora, yes, go ahead, interrupt. Do your thing.
You definitely are a ninja for sure, and I could see that very much about you, and I definitely see the shape shifting about you. Fran, this keeps popping up. This has popped up about 16 times so far since you came in this evening. So this is a book that I just got, and this is a book by Rebecca Campbell, and I've not read this author until about 2 weeks ago, and her chapters are super short. This one is called Light is the New Black. And it says, this chapter stopped me in my tracks. And I was like, I'm not yeah, I am. Come out of the spiritual closet. And it basically says, come out wherever you are. And be the light worker, be the one that you want to be, the one that you feel the most vibrationally lined up with. And I feel like that really resonates with you, that you get that one that you want to be. Keep stepping into that, keep maneuvering into that. Come out of the closet, let people see who you are and feel really good about it, because you know who you are in that sense of, these are the things that I like. These are the things that I enjoy. This is what I'm really good at. This is what lights me up. And to keep showing people and sharing that and knowing each time, yes, they're understanding of this, or no, they're not my people. Yes, they are my people. No, they're not my people. Yeah, they're my really close people, or no, they're kind of my close people, and navigating through that. So it might be something that you might like to read. That's just one chapter. That's 2 pages.
I just want to clarify. I'm not some kind of psycho multi-split personality disorder person who just decides to change the way they behave to fuck with people, right? That's not who I am.
Nice
That's
disclaimer.
not what I do. It's who do I need to be to get them to be the way they need to be, so that I and them can both get what we want.
Yes.
And that goes back to what I was saying about remaining flexible and remaining adaptable to change in social situations, right? Who do I need to be? Like, if a bunch of tourists come up to me and they don't know how to use the public transportation system, right? And they, up until this point, been doing it the more expensive way, and I, make fun of them a little bit. Oh my God, you're so noobs. Oh my God, you're completely obviously not from London, are you? And then I poke fun at them a little bit, and then I show them how they can save money during their trip to travel around the city and see all the things they want to see. That's like me becoming a playful version of me to make them feel welcome in my city, right? But if someone else had their bag snatched and is scared because, you know, this person's now run off, random person's run off with all their credit cards and their phone and they don't know what to do, then I become much more fatherly and, oh, don't worry, we'll call the police, we'll get it right. Do you want to use my phone to cancel up your credit cards, and you can do this and you can do that, and let's keep it proactive, right? So it's, who do I need to become given the context? And if the context is not serious, then oftentimes I'm just going to play with it a little bit and see what's possible, because that's how I learn where the limits are. You know,
And I
by
love
trying
deep,
stuff.
deep
Sorry?
trance identification. Sorry, I thought you'd
Go
finished.
for it. No, I had finished. I didn't hear what you
Yeah.
said. Sorry.
I love deep trance identification and how I've actually been able to change a lot of my personality. But I think I need to create a deep trance identification identity that has got that level of flexibility to flip from who do I need to be in this situation even more effectively than now, so that when the left field questions happen and you think, or it throws you back into who you used to be for a moment, that you can actually regain your equilibrium much more quickly.
What does a left field question sound like?
It sounds like, who are you? What's your marital status? How much do you earn? What's your religion? Things like that. Where do you live? What's your phone number?
Why is that important to you? How's that for a response?
know.
No, how's that for a response to give to them? Why is that important to you?
That's pretty witty.
But what's important? What's important about that to you?
I think it's their effort taken in the context that the last time it happened was, I think it was somebody trying to connect with me and find commonality with me. I think it was their way of doing that. And to me, it was, this is a really personal question. Mind your own business.
Well, just say it. Just say that.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, this is a really personal question. I might answer it later, but for now, you're going to have to mind your own business.
And especially if there's somebody new, like Ladora had, well, that's a 2-drink minimum question. So sometime when we can sit down and have a couple of drinks, I might go over that. But so tell me about yourself and flip it over on them. Use all the stuff that you learned, the trifecta, echo talk, 3 magic questions, get them talking about themselves.
What else do you enjoy that's not interrogating people?
Yeah. But
Usually, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Have a file full of replies for those particular questions now that you know that some of them bother you. What's your marital status? Educated.
Good one.
I need a list.
What's your marital status? Experienced.
What's my marital status? Virgin.
I was gonna say, Fran.
Experiment.
And say, someone asked me, would I like
Position
to get
is
married?
available.
Someone asked me, would I like to get married? And my response was, to you.
Oh, that's a good one.
And they were like, I said, well, it's not that I wouldn't like to get married. It's not that I would like to get married. But if there's someone here who wants to marry me, I'm willing to discuss it.
I was gonna say, Fran, have go-to questions. Usually if it's an area that I'm familiar with, I'll ask, I'll change the topic really quick. Have you tried that new restaurant? Or, have you been there? Have you tried their ice cream yet? And I'll just flip it to something much more neutral.
I could always spill a drink or something on them. That would distract them.
As long as you don't end up with a dry cleaning bill, you're good.
Or you could
Or
say
just
something
filling
really
the drink
confusing.
with. Say
you know?
again?
Or you could say something really confusing. You know, sometimes the things that can make sense don't. And other things that can not make sense will when they shouldn't. What do you think about that?
The
See,
linguistic
like
ninja comes running out of the
everybody's
the door.
everybody's brain just now went, huh? What? How do I answer that question?
It's
What?
like talking in Alice in Wonderland with him sometimes.
Did you know that what's the guy's name? Lewis Carroll, who wrote Alice in Wonderland. Lewis Carroll was a mathematician, and he used mathematical equations and logic to write Alice in Wonderland. And John Overdurf in his classes breaks it down and teaches you how to speak that way.
Stop it.
It's so freaking good, dude.
Oh
Honestly.
my God. Which class?
Any of the recent stuff with the rhizome in it.
Okay. Oh, you love the rhizome. Yeah.
There is one from like 2021 or something, one of the COVID years, where he released a video set called Rhizomatic Linguistics.
Okay.
Dude, it's like he goes all into the Lewis Carroll Alice in Wonderland type language.
You do love him.
I
John,
love him,
rather.
dude.
Yeah, John,
know?
you're a big fan.
You know, where he goes, like, even if you think about Alice in Wonderland, and she's like, could you tell me how to get away from here, please? Well, that depends very much on where you want to go. I don't really care where I go as long as it's not here. Which direction do I have to go? Well, if you don't care where you go, then it wouldn't matter which way you go, does it? You know, and like it's that kind of conversation that is so logical that it makes you think that it's not logical. It makes you kind of spin your brain. You know, where wouldn't you be if you weren't here? I want you to really think about that. Where wouldn't you be if you weren't here?
That's a vast piece of property.
And what wouldn't it be like to be not you? So I'd like to thank the both of each of all of you, and every one of each of you, and all of each of you, and all of both of you, and all of both of each of you, too. Not the band, but you know, you too. That's your conscious and your that's right. The conscious mind was trying to pay attention to the question, but the problem is your conscious mind can only pay attention to 7 plus or minus 2 things. Meanwhile, you're unconscious. Has been faithfully recording. Sorry, TJ, you go.
I was just going to say, and for those of you watching live now, before you attempt to operate machinery, come out of trance.
Oh, yeah. Disclaimer. Please do not listen to this while driving or operating heavy machinery.
So there was another aha that I had the other day, and I don't know about you guys. When you would have to sit down and study, or like if you're preparing for something, I used to think I needed to literally sit in front of the computer for 8 hours. So like I had to sit there and study for 8 hours. And I find, hilariously enough, TJ, this goes right along with your vacationing. When I get away, literally when I get outside and I go into nature, or I just get away from a lot of people and I go away from things, the amount of information that comes pouring in at the rate it comes pouring in is shocking. And I had no idea. And I then have to argue with myself going, no, because part of me is like, you should be sitting down typing this. You should be sitting down writing this. You should be doing this. And I'm like, no, it's okay. Like, I got it. It's in here. I got it. And
You need time for it to consolidate. right? That's what I do. Honestly, that's my pattern. I go really hard for like 3 to 6 months at a time when it comes to studying and practicing. And then I just disappear for a month and nobody knows where I am. Oh, Elijah, are you going to do a class? Oh, sorry, dude. I don't feel like it this month. And I just chill and play video games and do whatever. But when I come back from that break, only then do I realize how much I retained from what I was learning.
Do you think
right?
you're jumping at the time?
Allow time. Excuse me?
Do you think you're jumping at the time? You're quantum jumping? Like, I don't know why quantum
I
jumping
think I'm
is
just
only like a moment
allowing
in my
it
head.
time, but for it to settle and integrate with what I know.
Okay.
That's what I think it is.
And then there are the sort of sudden upgrades of awareness and learning and intuition that happen. And sometimes it feels like you've forgotten everything you knew, and what you knew doesn't work for a while. And there's this kind of limbo period. Maybe other people have experienced this. Maybe this is something rather unique. I do know some people that go through these cycles of learning, like Elijah was talking. It may be similar to the consolidation period, but you kind of need time to undo everything that you learned before you can go on to the next level of understanding and learning. Is this very alien to people who are listening?
It's actually quite common. A lot of people have to unlearn to be able to learn.
Very Yoda of you.
Well, I've actually had that happen when learning to dance. Like being with a dance partner who learned traditional West Coast swing, and the swing dance style that I do is very eclectic. It's not East Coast, it's not West Coast. And so I have to tell myself, I don't know how to dance this dance. It has a lot of the same steps, but I have to unlearn what I think I know so that I can learn how to do it their way. And so it's a form of, you have to unlearn to be able to learn.
And I think it's similar to the consolidation period that Elijah was talking about, in that you need that space, and it's very confusing and sometimes very confronting that you think you don't know anything because you are in this period of undoing what there was so you can make room for something bigger and better.
Yep. Yep.
Particularly when it comes to energetic work.
Energetic, languaging. It's interesting that, and when it comes down to values and criteria and belief systems, when they get challenged, and you have to get to a point where you can step back and ask yourself, why does this bother me? And if the part that is bothered isn't serving you, you have to go in and undo those values and criteria so you can replace them with an upgraded set. And it's not that the old ones were bad, because they served you and got you this far. But when you start realizing that, that what they said really bothered me, well, why? And you start analyzing, going, oh, that was something I came up with way back in the day. What, is it appropriate now? Wow, I guess not. And you have to go in and rework that if it serves you better.
And I think sometimes that can lead to a bit of a dark night of the soul, while
Yes.
You have to go into some very strong and severe introspection about who you are, what you are, why you are. and all the things that you thought you knew maybe are no longer valid in your life. And that's very confronting. And to try and give heart to people that are actually going through that at any particular time, saying, look, this is just the moment of change. This is transition. This is what the transition from what there was to what there will be is all about. And it's, when you're in it, it feels like the end of the world sometimes.
And if you study Chinese facial reading, you'll know that after you've gone through that, you end up with these, which I have like 4 of them now. Yeah, it's those. I tell people when we're teaching facial reading and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, you got those?" I said, "Yeah, these are the marks that I hope you don't have to get." But it got me here and helped me understand how to help other people that are going through it as well.
I would also like to say, absolutely everything you want and you've been longing for in this life is just on the other side of that place where you're currently not willing to go.
Yep.
And you only have to feel it for a couple of seconds to get to the other side of it. It's not like you're going to be sitting there in like a retarded amount of pain and hurt and stuff. And, you know, it's okay for you to find a place that's, you know, appropriate and, you know, a space and a time when you think, you know, okay, I'm going to give this a go, and just go there and go there with like an open mind and an open heart, and, you know, just on the other side of what you fear is literally everything you want.
Yep. That's why I also tell people when I teach Identity Management University that if you can actually act out for somebody, show them the person you want to become, you can actually act it, you can go through the motions and show them what it would look like. You already have all the ingredients in you. Now it's repetition and belief, because you can be anybody you want. Method actors prove it all the time. They just decide when they're done acting which one they want to go back into. And oftentimes they pick the one that is most familiar to the tribe they want to hang out with. Let that sink in. Method actors can be anybody they want to be at any time. And when they come out of the role, they decide who they want to be identifiable by the tribe they want to hang out with. I'd love to go into that more, but we're past our 2 hour, and I always want to respect, especially for the people that, you know, take their precious commodity. Again, you guys have been around, you know what I'm going to say. I can't give you back time. And so I want to respect your precious commodity and thank you for choosing to invest your precious commodity on this platform, to share with others, to ask the questions, to give your insights, give your inputs, so that hopefully somebody beyond us will hear that one little nugget or whatever that will be exactly what they needed to hear. And you guys constantly help bring that stuff up. So hopefully I supply enough as well. That being said, 7 more days, we'll hopefully get to do this again. And until then, please go out and live your life to the absolute maximum that you can achieve. Become all that you have available to you. Be nice to each other. Make the world a better place than you found it. You guys are awesome.